Hi, my name is Rachel Evans, and I'm a senior psychology major doing research in the Alabama Cognitive Development Lab. My presentation is called Parent-Child Interaction: How Parents Affect Toddler Learning in Object Play. Parent actions can influence child learning in many areas, such as vocabulary development. Parents use many techniques to share their knowledge with their children. One technique that is less studied is the role of gestures in children's understanding of object function and names. The purpose of this study is to examine how parents most effectively initiate toddler word and function learning. The hypotheses of the study were that parents would focus more on familiar compared to unfamiliar objects, increased language by parents would lead to increased word and function learning in kids, and increased gesture by parents would lead to increased word and function learning in kids. This research is important because language development can be an indicator for learning disabilities, autism spectrum disorder, and more. Detecting these problems in childhood can also assist in diagnosis and treatment. The mechanisms of early word learning are also important because they affect how children categorize information in the future. Most early learning occurs in parent-child interactions, which means that parents are essential in vocabulary development and approach word learning differently based on what they believe their child's level of knowledge is. The participants in this sample were 7 Tuscaloosa mother-child dyads of 3 and 4-year-olds, and the materials used in the interaction were 12 items from 3 knowledge levels, which were piloted beforehand. The familiar objects that mother and child use in the interaction are a cup, a spoon, and a bowl. The novel objects used are a spile, a sock block, and a shuttle, and a huller, and an unknown object used is a dropper, a funnel, a coaster, and a stopper. The measures used in this study are a demographics questionnaire completed by the parent, a receptive vocabulary test, which is the MacArthur Cognitive Development Inventory, and then also a productive vocabulary test in the form of the NIH Toolbox Picture Vocabulary Test. The receptive and productive vocabulary measures are used to understand the child's baseline vocabulary level prior to the study session. The procedure consisted of the parent and child arriving at the University of Alabama Child Development Research Center and filling out consent forms before entering the testing room. The participants are given a brief explanation of the motion tracking robots, called swivels, that are used to record the session and require the parent and child to wear a sensor. After it is clear that the participants understand the technology within the room, they are presented with the 12 piloted items in a box and told, play with these as you normally would, pay little attention to each of the objects. The play session lasts for about 10 minutes. The researcher then conducts 2 child word learning tasks to assess word production and word recognition, with the objects counterbalanced to control for order effects. In order to code and analyze our data, we use the video recordings from the swivels and analyze them in the Elan software, with 14% of the corpus being coded by a second observer for iterator reliability. The videos were segmented, annotated, and coded. Each object was coded for labeling frequency, gesturing frequency, and parent interaction time. The child word learning task was coded on a binary scale of 0 or 1, indicating incorrect or correct. The child vocabulary measures from the MCDI and NIH Toolbox, PVT, as well as demographic information from the questionnaire, completed by the parents, were used to control for confounding factors. Despite the small sample size, we were able to maintain some diversity in annual family income, sibling structure, and race or ethnicity. 3 of the dyads had an annual income of over $100,000, while there was only 1 dyad in each of the other income categories. We also found that 3 of the children were the oldest siblings, 2 were middle children, and 2 of them were only child. The race and ethnicity diversity for this sample included 5 Caucasian dyads, 1 African American dyad, and 1 American Indian dyad. Preliminary results show that parent total interaction time across all 3 knowledge levels was significant. As you can see, in line with hypothesis 1, parents spent more time talking with and interacting with familiar objects rather than unfamiliar objects from the unknown or novel categories. Parent labeling was highly correlated with the amount of parent talking. Child labeling, while not reaching significance, trended towards being related to child production task. In response to hypothesis 2, a bivariate correlation was conducted between parent talk and child word learning, which showed no significance. The same was the case with hypothesis 3, in which a bivariate correlation was conducted between parent gesture and child word learning. In conclusion, the preliminary results indicate that mothers play differently with objects based on their knowledge level. This may affect how toddlers learn about object names and their functions. Although no significant correlations were determined between parent language and gesture and child word and function learning, this could be attributed to the small sample size and lack of explicit function evaluation question. As of today, there have been 47 parent-child dyads who have participated in this study. The next steps of this study would be to increase sample size and add an explicit measure of function learning. It would also be interesting to see a future study that focused on why parents do not label objects that are unknown to their children. Thank you for listening to my presentation.